Hey there, everybody. This is Terry from the Tag Collab. Um, for a while, I have been writing about empowerment, about having the clarity, going back and unearthing some of the scripts that may hold us back. And so, essentially, at the core of everything that I do is to hopefully help other people become the best version of themselves and to lead with clarity. But I for a while was weighing on me that I couldn't continue to teach these things if I didn't also address the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is really that you cannot lead with clarity or be empowered if you're financially in the dark. And whether at home or at work, knowing your numbers is essential to leadership and to long-term success. This is a bit of a roadmap, is what I'm sharing in this week's episode and article, and it's called "You Gotta Know Your Numbers." Now, I had a mentor. She's pretty badass, honestly. When in Spanish we say nadie le podía hacer cuento because she knew everything there was to know about the business, but most importantly, when it came to every department that she had, she knew her numbers inside and out. And so she harped on us that you sometimes only have one chance, and so knowing your numbers, knowing your spreadsheet, knowing the P&L is essential, really. And so I've come to learn that it doesn't just mean in business. It's kind of like it's about dominion, it's about mastery, it's about knowing your numbers is about you knowing your business, your life, your worth. What she meant was, look, own your shit. Be prepared, be unshakable, especially when it comes to money. Because confidence isn't just about how you show up, it's about what you know when no one's watching. When I write about challenging cultural skips, teaching lessons in leadership, and navigating both the soft and hard skills at work, I find myself circling back on one unavoidable truth. I cannot teach you fully how to network, influence, or execute and expect that you will be fully empowered if I don't address the fact that you need to know your numbers. Because leadership without financial clarity is half built. And empowerment, whether personal or professional, is incomplete if you're still in the dark about your money. You can never be fully confident unless you know it. Look, a lot of Latinas are oftentimes left in the dark about money. I have seen powerhouse women, these are like your girl boss, la jefas, chingona, as we say, run teams, close deals, lead movements, but behind closed doors, they'll whisper to you, I really don't know about my finances. It's not about intelligence, it's about and it's not about intelligence. Quite frankly, some of it is inherited, right? For decades, women were expected to manage the home, but not necessarily encouraged to manage the accounts. Add a little bit of cultural science, religion, generational wealth, the fact that we're already, solving the rest of the world as mommies and women, and you get women who can lead empires, but that leave a lot of the financial tracking and decisions to their husbands. The receipts don't lie. Only 28% of women say they feel very confident managing investments. 50% of men do, which is more than women, but quite frankly, that also shows that there's a lot of room for improvement and learning, right? We're all learning. It's an iterative process. If you think you've learned everything, know that and I'll talk about that in a second. Um, it's not a one and done, right? 1 in 5 women leave long-term financial decisions entirely to their spouses. Divorce lawyers consistently say that women often learn their full financial picture after separation. One of my closest friends, who's an elite divorce attorney, her name is Alia Hernandez Caroline, saw this heartbreak firsthand. Again and again, she watched women walk into court or to her office heartbroken and financially blind. The devastation was so great that she wrote a book that's called Lose Your Heart, Not Your Mind, which I'll include a link here. Her message was clear: love deeply, but never be financially naive. Why wealth building today isn't what our parents knew. I mean, I think oftentimes we all look to our parents for somebody, a mentor, for guidance. And as I said, it's kind of changing. Like, our parents grew up in a time, and our grandparents, the people who taught us how to survive in this society, grew up in a time, many of them were, one, they may not have had the financial means to even consider these things because they were more worried about putting food on the table. But many of them, 401ks are pretty relatively new. Like this is from the 1980s, right? When they became mainstream. Accredited investor opportunities like private equity and venture capital weren't even a household conversation. Sometimes they, and a lot of times they aren't even today. Let's be honest. Digital investing platforms didn't even exist, and for many immigrant families, the stock market felt like a rich man's game. Today, we live in a different financial landscape with new rules and new risk, which means that the old scripts, save what you can or buy a house and you're set, don't always apply the same way. Financial sophistication isn't a luxury anymore. It really is a survivor skill. I oftentimes say that it is a new version of the American dream, if you want to call it something. And for many of us, the knowledge of the people we trusted the most, our families, were the ones that guided us in it, but they're limited in their information today, which means it falls on us. This is when I say you're leading and you're oftentimes alone. This is what that looks like, right? Money isn't just math, it's power. This isn't about distrusting men, it's about trusting yourself. Empowerment isn't exclusion, it's participation. So here's a little bit of a roadmap. Um, for a couple of reasons. One is I want to make sure that we are not held back. As anybody, whether men, women, as leaders, as being the best version of ourselves, and sometimes cultural scripts and fear can hold us back. So sometimes also the fear of looking ignorant, right? So first and foremost, you need to think about how you maximize your earnings, right? Do you know your worth? Do you advocate for yourself against the imposter syndrome? Do you know how to negotiate? Do you know how to diversify your income? And do you know how? So, this is really about maximizing what you could potentially earn in the business that you're currently in. Then, budget with intention. There's a difference between needs and wants. And that's one of the core lessons that we should be teaching our children, right? If we want them to be financially savvy. That $30 impulse buy today could be $300 in interest over time. Try this framework. Would I actually write this down in a financial journal that I'm going to buy this? Sometimes too, my father used to teach me that don't buy that day. If in a week from now you're still thinking about it, well, then maybe, it is worth it, right? Um, so that's about budgeting with intention. Oftentimes, too many people prefer not to even look at the budget. That's like, unfortunately, it's like dieting without looking at calories. It's uncomfortable, but if you are able, you need to be able to adjust yourself to the lifestyle that you can afford. And in addition to that, I would advocate for even living under that so that you have the money to be able to first save. You got to first maximize, then save, to then maximize again that earning potential of that money. Don't let your cash, this is number three, make your money work for you. Don't let your cash snap in low yield accounts. And what that means is just basically low percentage. For a long time, I was so busy working that I didn't really look at what was the returns that it was giving me. It was just money that I was saving, right? Because that's what they told us before, just save your money. When in reality, that money lying in a bank account, making zero interest is actually losing money because you could be getting a higher percentage. And that's what I mean when high yield savings accounts. Use high interest savings, retirement vehicles, and understand compound interest. Hire a financial advisor, but stay awake because the more you learn, you realize that you are your own fiduciary. You have an opinion. Don't delegate this to somebody else. Like at this point, I'm already talking about a little bit more sophisticated for some people, and that's fine. It's a step-by-step process, and you can only learn by learning one thing, then learn another thing, and you learn another thing. And the first part of that is identifying what you don't know. Retaining more of what you earn. This is where taxes, right, are sometimes your biggest hidden expense. How do you get strategic about it? Partner with a CPA, consider legal structures for protection, build a team that safeguards your peace. Grow into financial sophistication. As your money grows, so does your responsibility. Diversify into, look at real estate, index funds, small business equity, private market opportunities. Risk and reward are oftentimes our brothers and sisters. The higher the risk, oftentimes the higher the reward. You may not be in a position for that. But the point is that several years ago, I realized that I wasn't. I was great at savings and I was great at budgeting, but I was not great at making my money work for me because I was afraid. Like, I was like, oh, I don't understand these index funds and ETFs and all this other stuff. And it's a lot of fancy talk, but in reality, when you translate that into normal language, it's much easier to understand. And, by learning one thing, it always builds upon another. When you have clarity over your finances, you don't tolerate toxic jobs or toxic partners. You don't negotiate, you're able to negotiate with some backbone, and you lead your business and your family with peace and not with panic. This is bigger than budgets. It's really about agency, legacy, and freedom. And I, of course, cannot give you, I am number one, not a financial advisor. I cannot give you advice or anything like that. I am here to encourage you to start just with the first thing. If whether you are not maximizing your earnings and thinking about every hour of yours, your time is currency, are you getting the most return on that investment? And by the way, that investment or that return may not necessarily be money. For your priorities may be spending time with my kids, which yields a huge return on investment. But where you decide and how you prioritize, many times when you understand that your time is money, that you'll focus on the things that are going to give you the biggest return on your investment and on your once you know what your priorities are. So doing this work, doing the foundational work is important, and not letting fear because you don't know or fear of failure being the things that hold you back. um I suggest, sometimes it's not within our own circles that we learn these things, but this is why having a diverse network, having mentors that don't look like you, that are not from the same circles as you, can be incredibly powerful. Because if you're the daughter of an immigrant who was trying to make it, they may not know these things, and it's incumbent upon us to be the first to teach it for ourselves and for our kids, right? And for our parents sometimes as well. So again, if you this is the Tag Collab. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I urge you to know your numbers. Nobody can, once you do, nobody can take anything away from you. Nadie te puede hacer cuento, like they say. And just, you know what? It takes baby steps. One step builds upon another. Do not be afraid of it. I promise you, when you go on this journey, you will learn more and more and more. And as a community, the more we learn and the more that we share, which oftentimes is not always encouraged to talk about money, but I do talk about money because it is the only way that we are going to be able to help each other grow as a community. Is once that circle knows, once one person knows, another person knows, another person knows, then we share that information and we're helping build each other's financial literacy and financial empowerment and wealth as a community. So, till next time, share this if you like. Take care. Bye.